All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Dark of the Moon Human Alliance Sandstorm, another one of these Scout class Human Alliance figures, which, if you're unfamiliar, I mean, the gimmick with Human Alliance in general is they were kind of larger figures usually that came with a little posable, action figure of one of the humans from the movies, or in the case of the Scout class figures, just some random guy. Like Sandstorm comes with this guy called Private Deadcliff, whoever that's supposed to be. And in the case of the Scout class Human Alliance figures, they also had a tertiary sort of like weapon mode that larger figures could actually wield. And yeah, Sandstorm is a really cool little figure. He's I think probably my favorite of the ones that I have. I only have 3 of them, but still, he looks really cool in alt mode, really cool in robot mode, and I think definitely the worst part of this guy is the actual tertiary weapon mode, but I'd say, that's the most ignorable part of these guys in general anyway, so whatever. But yeah, he's got a great little alt mode. It rolls really nicely in terms of his actual functionality with Private Deadcliff here, who, same posability that I showed off with Backfire. He's just got a swivel at the head, universal joints at the shoulders, swivel at the wrist, the pinned legs that pin up into the body, so you can't bring them out unless they're also up, a little hinge knee, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, you can just bend his legs here, and it's kind of tricky to actually get him in here, but he can fit inside the little buggy there, and then you can kind of bring his hands up onto the little sculpted steering wheel. It's maybe a little bit too thick for him to actually hold it. You can kind of clip his hands onto there, but it does feel like it's sort of forcing the plastic a little bit to kind of stretch his hands around the steering wheel. So you can definitely do it, but I don't know that I'd really recommend actually clipping his hands onto the steering wheel. And he also comes with a little weapon here, which is just using the little 3mm clips that they were using a lot at the time, which in the case of Sandstorm, you can just clip onto the roll bar here. And yeah, that looks pretty cool. You can, it's also got a ball joint hinge there, so you can kind of bend it around like this, so it sits a little bit more, just off the side, looks a little bit more subtle. I think that looks a little bit better. But yeah, no, really cool little alt mode. I think that's actually pretty nice, person integration for the little Human Alliance gimmick. In terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, and you can see, obviously if we're scaling it off of the guy, then this guy is, way too big to scale with Sideswipe, but whatever. And for here he is with Backfire, who we looked at a few days ago, and then for another Dune Buggy comparison, here he is with Legacy Beachcomber, just so you can see what the two of them look like together. But yeah, like I said, the weapon mode on this guy is not great, but we can get onto that now. First thing you want to do is, obviously, we just take the guy off here. We can unclip the weapon. You can kind of just put it wherever you want on the weapon mode. It weirdly does not become a super integral part of it. First thing you want to do is take this little black piece in the back with the handle on it and just flip it around like that. It'll click into place. I like that this actually locks into place. That's always a complaint that I had with Backfire, is that, the rotating handle on him is just on a free swivel, which makes it kind of annoying. But I like that this one actually has locking points. Then you can take this entire section with the top of the roll cage here and fold it up like that. And then you want to take these sections with the wheels here and just untab them from the side here. Flip them around on these armatures till they click into place like that. And then you want to rotate this up so that this tab now goes into this little green section right here like that. Oh, actually, you want to wait to actually lock these in, because the seat ends up moving back just a little bit. It mostly, works regardless, but, just to do it officially here. And then what you basically want to do is just take these sections of the roll cage and just kind of unclip them and bring them out. There's a peg on them that kind of goes into a section of this little black armature section that's attached to the front end there. So you just want to undo those so you can bring this back. And now you can take the whole seat here and actually just push it back a little bit, which also pushes out these missile launchers in there. And now you can tab these in so that these little tabs kind of sit in the seat, notionally kind of locking it in place a little bit more, though this tends to kind of move around a lot anyway. And then for the back section here, now on these black armature sections, you want to take these little clip points here, which will actually clip onto the back sections of the seat there. So you just flip it up like that. And, you know, usually I kind of, instead of trying to just like clip it straight in, I'll just bring it around that section and kind of tab it in instead. And then, yeah, you can take the gun here. There's a few different things you can do to it. You can clip it onto like the roll bars up here and have it sit like that, though it sits at this angle. It's also weirdly loose on that section. What I usually like to do is just clip it onto the middle section here and have it sit like that, or, you know, even better yet, flip it around so it's actually kind of right side up, and have it sit like that. But he kind of becomes this big weird like chair for Private Deadcliff to sit in. So you can have him sitting there, and they also has these little handles that you can flip out, which is a nice bit of like actual integration there. But either way, I much prefer the weapons that actually, like, you know, turn into just like big ridiculous weapons for other figures to hold, rather than just turning into like a weird chair that doesn't really sit on its own. Like, and it has a, you know, it has the peg underneath, so notionally you could still have other figures hold this guy as a weapon, but it doesn't really look, you know, good as a weapon. Weirdly difficult to get his hands clipped onto these little things too there. But yeah, so, you know, it doesn't really stand on its own unless you like flip this section up, and then you can kind of have it sit like that. And I guess it's kind of a neat like armament chair or something, but like, I don't know. I don't even really like the integration with the people from this toy line. I just like, you know, the little figures themselves. So I usually put Private Deadcliff in a box, so I don't even really use this integration. And as a weapon, as it, like in and of itself, this doesn't like really work all that well, but it's there. But like we did last time, you can still bring on other figures to hold this weapon. It's not going to work at all with Sideswipe, but he does have a peg back there, so you could do something like that. But again, like before, we'll bring on Ultra Magnus, so there's a figure that's actually big enough to wield this ridiculous weapon, but I don't really think that looks super good. I don't know. It does kind of look like he's just holding a chair. And again, you know, with or without Private Deadcliff, I think that this looks pretty ridiculous and doesn't really work as a weapon mode, which is a shame, because I think that the other two modes for Sandstorm are so strong that it's a shame that, you know, the whole like part of the whole gimmick of the line, the like weapon thing, he really doesn't do very well. But yeah, you know, it's an option. You could like peg it onto like a base former or something like that. I've never really found a way to make that actually look like good, but you could do it. At least there is the peg there, so you can integrate it in some way. But yeah, this is not my favorite of the other weapon modes. But yeah, to get onto the rest of the transformation to robot mode, we'll just unclip the weapon there again, fold away the little handles there. Then we can unclip this section here and then just untab it from itself, just kind of split it down the middle, and it's kind of, that's not something I've experienced before. It's got a really, really tight tab in the middle, so you could just rip both of his feet off, apparently. I've never done that before. That's pretty funny. Just straighten out the legs and then rotate it around, and then you want to take these little sections of the bumper and just fold them down to be his toes there. And then you want to take, you know, the whole, you know, this whole section here, and well, I guess first we'll take the arms. Notionally, like, I always do this out of order because, you know, these little tabs don't really hold this seat in place, but notionally you're supposed to do the arms first so that this has the clearance to move forward, but it kind of, you know, these tabs don't really work, so it doesn't really affect it. But now we just kind of unfold the arms like that. They're kind of curled up around themselves, and the little exhaust pipes here are connected to the hand, so they fold onto the back of the arm when you do it like that. Then you can, you know, again, now we can compress the seat up so it actually sits properly like that, close up the actual seat section so it sits on the chest. And now this whole section we bring back down and kind of clip into place, and then you want to take just the top section with the roll cage here and fold that around so the head stays clipped into place. And then I forget, no, I think you do have to leave this down like that. Yeah, so you fold that down onto the back, and then you take these sections of the roll cage and fold them up, and they just sit as a chest detailing there. And there we have Sandstorm in his robot mode. And yeah, I think he's got a really cool little robot mode. I'm not like in love with the head sculpt because it doesn't like totally fit like it's for this figure. Like, you know, the red is the, you know, aside from the like the missile missile pods there, this is the only place the red shows up on the whole figure. And it feels like weirdly like swept back and aerodynamic for an otherwise very sort of like boxy type figure. So I don't know how well the head actually fits for this guy in particular, but it, you know, still I really like the vibe of the robot mode here. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate around and kind of wiggle back and forth. The shoulders are on ball joints, which can rotate around and go out to the side. They also do have this joint, which kind of does come unclicked every once in a while, which is a bit annoying. He's got ball joint elbows as well, so he gets a thigh swivel and then a little over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. The wrists can only bend in like that. He has a waist swivel. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side. He doesn't actually have a proper thigh swivel. It's just, you know, the ball joint there gets a decent amount of range. He's got about a 90-degree bend at the knee there, and then he's got really, really nice ball-jointed feet, which are both on ball joints and also on the cuff of the ball joint is also on a rotating section. So he's got really, really versatile foot articulation. Like you can bend his feet like way down like that or forward, and he gets a little bit of ankle tilt as well, which is nice because he does have like such huge like clompy feet that it does really feel like it's needed for the feet to be, you know, like so versatile, so he can actually stay flat-footed on the ground, which I feel like is nice. Yeah, in terms of his weapon integration, it does have a peg on the back here, so he can just hold it as like a regular gun, and you can kind of flip this piece to the side if you don't want it sticking out like that. Or you can still clip it onto the various clip points, although none of them really work as like a, you know, like you can clip it onto to this if you want, but it doesn't really, you know, you can like fold it to the side like that, but you know, this is more just like, I think for storage, you can just clip it on to the back here like it was in vehicle mode, and kind of curl it up and to be, you know, like as flush as it can to the body. But in terms of actually using it as a weapon, I feel like it's best with him just holding it in his hand. But yeah, here he is with Private Deadcliff, so you can see what the two buddies look like together. Yeah, again, I don't really like these figures. They also have kind of a hard time standing, but you know, notionally, whoops, sorry, bumping the camera there. Notionally, these guys are supposed to be in scale with each other, but whatever. But yeah, in terms of other comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see what he looks like there. Pretty tall Scout class figure, honestly. You know, he's like kind of halfway in between like a Scout and a you know, modern deluxe, because like, you know, he's kind of big for like what we would consider that size range now for like core class figures. But yeah, here he is again with Backfire, so you can see even a little bit bigger than him. Definitely feel like he's got a bit more oomph to him. And here he is again with Beachcomber, just for posterity's sake, really about the same size as him. He kind of fits in with like the you know, the like smaller scale deluxe mini bots from, you know, like Kingdom and Legacy and what have you, I guess dating back to Earthrise. But yeah, so you know, kind of that size there. But yeah, no, he's a really cool little figure. I really don't like the weapon mode, but honestly, if I had to pick one mode that would be, you know, like the worst mode for these guys, like I'm glad that it's the weapon mode for him, because otherwise he's just a fun little standalone. Also, he does have a toe joint technically because of how it works for transformation, so you could even have that going on. So yeah, pretty fun little articulation, great little alt mode, great little robot mode. It's just that weapon mode that's not really great. But you know, again, like comparing him to Backfire, like he's got a pretty good alt mode and a pretty good weapon mode, but the robot mode is not great. And I think I definitely prefer this, where it's just like, you know, if you want one mode to suffer, you'd want it to be that tertiary mode rather than one of the two main modes. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Dark of the Moon Human Alliance Sandstorm.